Der nächste bekannte Ort, an dem sich der Komponist in dieser turbulenten Zeit aufhielt, war Paris am 30. Juni 1936, wo er Arbeit als Komponist suchte.
He had certain publications with Smith. I've not been able to trace any of the songs or melodies at all. And he worked in Paris for a long while. He couldn't work necessarily under his own name, so he wrote for other composers. And there seems to have been some sort of complicated arrangement that the Italian Performing Rights Society paid Henri Baum, Heinz, for this, and the money was then transmitted to my grandfather. And there was also somebody in Italy, in San Remo, who had a cousin in the south of France, and I wasn't able to trace either of their families. It was very hard for him, and my father, who was by then in England, used to send money as and when he could, but there was a lot of paperwork and hoops to jump through in order to get him money.
Ab 1939 versuchte ihr Sohn Ralf verzweifelt, seine Eltern nach England in Sicherheit zu bringen, seine Mutter aus Berlin und seinen Vater aus Paris. Trotz allen Bemühungen blieb er erfolglos. Die beiden Neffen, Ralf und Henri Baum, standen mit Heinz in Paris in Kontakt.
Und interessanterweise, es sind ja dann Künstler nach Paris geflohen und 1934, nachdem alles Orten, nachdem die Reichskulturkammer eingerichtet war, haben viele Juden in Paris gesagt, es ist doch nicht so schlimm, wie wir gedacht haben. Wir gehen nach Deutschland zurück. Sie gingen zurück nach Berlin. Sie waren schon im Ausland, sie gingen zurück. Und dann kam ja 1936, dann kam die Olympiade und dort war alles normal. Hitler hat gesagt, wir wollen Frieden, wir wollen Freundschaft mit den Völkern. Das war die Propaganda. Da haben viele auch geglaubt, es ist nicht so schlimm. Schlimm wurde es dann mit der Reichspogromnacht. Und da war es schon fast zu spät.
I have one tragic letter where he said he bought himself a pistol and if my father didn't send him any more money, he would use it. Whether this was melodrama or whether it was his intention, we never knew. But obviously the correspondence never reached my father, and even if he had, he wouldn't have been able to send money for him to continue living in Paris. I've got the papers for my Heinz, that he was given permission to stay in Paris. I imagine that the other two also did, but at some point in the missing years, they all went to the south. Whether they were deported to the south, whether they then lost contact with each other or not, I've got no idea. Together, I believe they all tried to join the French Foreign Legion. At the time, the French Foreign Legion was more or less fighting for the Free French. So that is what they did at the beginning. My grandfather, also Heinz, was not allowed to join, probably on account of his age. And the letter said that he had a hernia. Whether he did or not, I don't know.
Nach der Kriegserklärung Frankreichs an Deutschland am 3. September 1939 mussten sich alle männlichen feindlichen Ausländer im Stade de Colombe einfinden und nur Gabel, Löffel und Lebensmittel für 2 Tage mitnehmen. Aus den Unterlagen geht hervor, dass Ralf Baum dort war. Und wir können davon ausgehen, dass sein Bruder Henri und auch Heinz Lewin unter den 25.000 anderen Männern waren. Nach einer gewissen Zeit wurden sie in Internierungslager gebracht. Heinz kam nach Francillon, das in der Nähe des Camp de Blois-Sillot als Centre de Rassemblement des Étrangers, also Sammellager für Ausländer, lag. Heinz wurde ein paar Monate später freigelassen und erhielt eine Aufenthaltserlaubnis für Paris. Viele namentlich genannte feindliche Ausländer wurden jedoch im Mai 1940 in den unbesetzten Süden umgesiedelt.
And I don't know exactly when he was sent to a camp in southwest France called Setfond, which is not far from Toulouse.
Heinz Lewin wurde festgenommen und in das Internierungslager Ceffonds gebracht. Dort trat er als musikalischer Leiter der Groupe 302 de Travailleurs étrangers auf.
This is the picture of my grandfather that first drew our attention to the fact that he really was here, because he looked very much like my father at the same age. And that's him in the middle. And these are other people from the camp. And that one is a Spanish refugee from the Spanish Civil War. And this is a program from the concert that they did just before they were deported. And here you have his name and the artistic director who did several of the pictures that we saw earlier on. And these are all talented people who were interned in the camp. This one is quite interesting because this was taken by a well-known press photographer of the day, Isaac Kitrosser, and this was taken and sent to the newspaper showing how they were allowed to have Jewish services. This is supposedly the Day of Atonement. Le jour du grand pardon would have been the Day of Atonement. And here you have some of the other members of the internees doing manual labour. There was a directive by Eichmann for 200 people actually from Ceffonds. Here they have 295, but maybe the others were from another camp. They couldn't find enough adults in the camp to deport, so they rounded up an extra 20 or so children. So this is the reconstruction of a barrack, and the history is documented all along these walls. This is the list of the deportees, and actually you find, if you look up my grandfather, this one, and that's his birth date, and he was on Convoi 30, the 30th convoy from here.
So that's him.
That's him. Lewin, dit Letton.
Ah, dit Letton, d'accord, oui.
Wiesbaden, born 22nd of March 1888 in Wiesbaden.
Von den 24 deportierten Kindern war der zweijährige Henri Grau das jüngste. Zu seinem Gedenken und dem der anderen Kinder wurde in der Stadt Ceffonds ein Denkmal errichtet.
And here I should add that all correspondence between him and my father ceased because my father was shipped out from England as an enemy alien to Canada while Heinz was in Ceffonds. He was allowed to stay 2 extra days for one last concert towards the end of August 1942. And they were on the 30th convoy from Caussade to Drancy and thereafter to Auschwitz. We've got no other documentation, so very sad, very poignant, and we never knew whether he got off the train and was marched to the left to the gas chambers straight away. I think he must have been pretty courageous. There was no alternative. He was amongst a load of people that were like-minded. This was what kept them going, and this was what gave them a raison d'être to bring some joy to their lives and to do what they were all best at. And I think it brought a great deal of pleasure to the French who were living by in the neighbourhood that were also pretty oppressed and not very happy with the conditions that they were living under at the time. It provided a break in the monotony of their days, and a number of them were working in the fields in the vendange and growing food for their existence. So it was a camp war effort for all of them. There were a number of artists who were in the camp with him, musical artists as well as painting artists. And I think there was quite a benevolent camp capitaine who encouraged their work. They put on many concerts in local towns, raising money for the Free French War effort at the time and also in the camp. And we have the programme of one of the concerts and also the music. It was left in the effects of the camp commandant and his grandson or great-grandson put them on eBay, and a local historian from Setfond noticed them and bought them. And we now have in our possession music that was written over 80 years ago, performed once or twice, but never heard again. I think he was a remarkable man. We have one lovely picture of him rear view, but conducting a chorus at the piano of one of the tunes he must have composed, and they were all singing there, and they were making the best of their life.